The Life Story of Meishusama.
Like all stories, it begins simply on a cold winter's night, when the wind whistled around the eaves of a little single-room wood and paper house, standing on a narrow dirt street where the houses huddled together for warmth. On this cold December night in 1882, joy would also come into this home. A son would be born, and the name they would choose for him would be Mokichi. In time, he would eventually be known as Meishusama, Master of Light. Mokichi began to toddle about and grew into a happy little boy. Soon, he was old enough to help his family sell second-hand goods from their home. He especially loved helping his mother around the house because it made her smile. On evenings without rain, he could be found eagerly pushing the family cart to the nearby temple grounds, where his family would sell their second-hand items to the crowds of people who flocked there. As time went on, he later wrote, "I was able to push the handcart, which bore not only our merchandise, but our hopes for the future." These outings to the temple grounds also gave Mokichi a chance to experience trees, birds, and flowers. He loved nature and being in natural surroundings. Although Mokichi had always been a little weak and sickly, many illnesses began to plague him when he entered school. When Mokichi was a teenager, he often sat studying and reading while the other students had active social lives, played sports, or went on school trips. It was then that books became his new friends. And because of the illnesses he suffered when he was a teenager and later on in life, he had great empathy for all those who came to him with health problems. Despite his illnesses, Mokichi was always first or second in his class. At 14, his good grades helped him gain entrance to the famous school, now known as Tokyo National University of Fine Arts and Music. 6 months after entering that school, Mokichi developed an infection in his right eye. This ended his lifelong dream of studying art. Mokichi's heart was filled with anguish, since no one could predict if or when his eyesight might improve. He finally wrote a letter requesting permission to leave school. More illnesses followed. First came pleurisy, a lung disease. The doctors were able to relieve Mokichi's symptoms once, but when the symptoms returned, the doctors brought him the terrible news that he was now suffering from a dreaded disease known as TB, pulmonary tuberculosis. There would be 2 more times in his lifetime when doctors would tell Mokichi that he was going to die from one illness or another. But he kept a positive attitude and overcame his many illnesses. Mokichi noticed the medications the doctors gave him over the years for his various illnesses helped very little and had bad side effects. Later on in life, Mokichi would often warn people, "Medicine makes our bodies weak." His life in a shambles at 19, Mokichi decided to take his health into his own hands. He experimented by switching to a vegetarian diet, and his health began to improve. Soon he was free of the TB that had haunted him, and as each day passed, he grew stronger. Intent on encouraging his good health, Mokichi took up walking and hiking in the mountains as exercise and continued walking all his life. But suddenly, At the age of 53, his father died. Mokishi's father left him enough money to open a sundry shop where he sold beautiful purses, hairpins, and jewelry. On September 1st, 1923, one of the biggest earthquakes in Japan destroyed most of Tokyo. The destruction of most of the city also destroyed his business. It was then that Mokishi took a long, hard look at his life. He began to wonder and search for the spiritual meaning and purpose of life. There was nothing left to do but to return to God. In 1924, some people began seeing an image of Kannon, God's representative of universal love and compassion, hovering around Mokichi. When Mokichi stood up, Kannon stood up. When he sat down, Kannon sat down. When he walked somewhere, Kannon followed him. Many were puzzled by this, including Mokichi. In December 1926, while meditating at home one night, an amazing thing happened that would change his life forever. Mokichi felt the strangest feeling arising in his heart. It was the most peaceful feeling, but it urged me to speak something out loud. His wife Yoshi ran to get paper, brush and ink, and put everything he said down on paper. Day after day, week after week, for about 3 months, words just flowed out of him. Yoshi dutifully wrote them all down. The words he spoke spontaneously told the story of the past history of Japan and foretold of startling events to come in the future. Mokichi thought the words were important. Kannon seemed to play an important role in directing the mysteriously guided words. Throughout the rest of his life, Mokichi would receive guidance from Kannon and his work as Meishusama, Master of Light. On the edge of Tokyo Bay, east of Tokyo, sits a sacred mountain known as Mount Nokogiri. One day, Meishusama received guidance from God in the form of Kannon, who told him to climb Mount Nokogiri to see the sunrise. On June 15, 1931, Meishusama followed God's guidance and led 30 people up the mountain in the dark. As the sun slowly rose above the horizon, bathing the party in golden light, Meishusama led the group in a simple prayer ceremony. Suddenly, he experienced a divine revelation that foretold of the change from an age of darkness to an age of light, and of his mission in helping this happen. He now understood clearly that humankind must work together to make this happen. After his experience on Mount Nokogiri, Meishusama became more determined and passionate about helping others in any way he could. He felt Kannon had guided him to pursue this role, so he must do his best. Later, in order to carry on his mission, he decided to create his own organization, known as the Kannon Society of Japan.
The Life Story of Meishusama.
Meishusama decided to create his own organization, known as the Kannon Society of Japan, to carry on his mission. Many people came to Meishusama for help. Meishusama needed a location to treat them and found a wonderful site on Tokyo's west side. This haven, which became known as Ozan-so, had another wonderful feature. Meishusama created a garden there. He allowed no chemicals, fertilizers, or pesticides to touch the soil or crops. He covered the ground with only leaves and grass to keep the soil moist, loose, and warm. He lavished the garden with the farmer's most wonderful ingredients: love and respect for the plants and the soil that nurtures them. He called this new approach to farming natural agriculture, and it would become part of his core teachings. Jore, a form of spiritual healing. Mrs. Mihoko Koyama, the first president of Shumei, was among Meishusama's most faithful students. She understood the healing power of Meishusama's presence and of Jore, because she had experienced them herself. Mrs. Koyama developed a serious kidney problem while she was pregnant. The doctor had insisted that her baby would have to be delivered early. But Mrs. Koyama chose to have Meishusama's assistant give her Jore instead. When her baby did not have to be delivered early, Mrs. Koyama showed her overwhelming gratitude by devoting her whole life to Meishusama and to healing others through Jore. A little boy complained to his mother of a headache. He soon developed a fever, and then he lost consciousness. His mother was also sick at the time. Remember the good neighbor who offered to share Jore with her? She asked her neighbor to please come and heal her son. Her neighbor took one look, swept the boy up, put him in a taxi, and immediately took him to the Ozan-so center. The boy's mother lay sick and frightened. What if something happened to her son while she lay here at home in bed? The mother fell asleep and dreamed she heard her son's cheerful voice call out, "I'm home." Those words seemed to echo around the room. Waking up, she realized her son had indeed returned home. He cheerfully ran to her room and asked her for something to eat. Day by day, for a week, his health improved. Finally, the boy's mother went to the center to express her deep gratitude to Meishusama in person. Miracles surround Meishusama. After the end of World War II, Japan began to allow greater religious freedom to its citizens. Many people were healed and received great blessings. And as a result, the organization grew rapidly. Meishusama had a dream of creating heaven on earth. Therefore, he bought a villa in Hakone and converted it to a unique museum. This museum opened a new world of beauty to everyone in Japan. It was an exciting time and an important event because Meishusama taught that art and beauty heals. An old man who was crippled with rheumatism picked up a cane that Meishusama had accidentally left behind after a visit. Using the cane, the old man set out for his walk. He was shocked to find his legs now moved without pain. Soon his rheumatism completely disappeared. Strange and wonderful things often happened around Meishusama. Once, while out flying a large kite, the kite glowed with a strange purple light. Called away, Meishusama handed the string of the kite to the person standing beside him. The beautiful purple light immediately disappeared. When Meishusama returned, his assistant handed the string back to him, and the purple light returned. Many people believe the light that dwelled within Meishusama transferred through his hands to the string of the kite, causing the kite to glow. Makoto. Honesty and keeping one's promises. Two assistants accidentally broke a lampshade while cleaning. They were very sorry and rushed out to buy an identical lampshade, hoping no one would notice their mistake. However, mistakes are not so easily hidden. Meishusama entered the room and noticed the atmosphere of the room felt lacking in something. He realized Makoto had fled from this room. Makoto is a word that means sincerity, honesty, and to keep one's promises, among other things. Meishusama scolded them. You may deceive people, but you can never deceive God. At another time, a different assistant broke an art object, but she immediately went to Meishusama to tell him what she had done and apologized. He listened and then did nothing but tell her to please be more careful in the future. Meishusama set a good example for his followers by practicing Makoto himself. The secret of happiness. Meishusama often entertained his children at the dinner table by beating time to the music on the radio. Sometimes he hummed or clapped his hands to the music, or tapped out a tune on the tea canister to the delight of the children. When someone asked Meishusama why he was such a happy person, he replied that since he was young, his hobby was to make others happy and to make them laugh. He wanted everyone to be happy, blessed, and at peace. Big changes begin to happen. At the end of May in 1950, Meishusama was arrested and kept in custody for 18 days. Every day he was asked many questions by angry men who refused to believe anything he said. They made his head pound and his stomach hurt. One night, Meishusama fell asleep and had a wonderful dream. He saw himself entering a beautiful palace on the top of Mount Fuji. When he woke up in the morning, he was so filled with joy he forgot his stomach pain. He sat remembering his beautiful dream and wondered if his pain was meant to deepen his connection to the sphere of divine light within him. Meishusama often said the power of Jore and the orb of light came from Kamo, known as the deity of compassion. As he knelt thinking about the light, the orb began to grow in size. He felt the sphere of light was a tangible proof that the divine spirit lived within him. Meishusama felt the light pulse with energy, and his own spirit blend together with that of the divine spirit. Soon after this miraculous event, Meishusama was released from jail and the courts cleared his name. World citizens, we are all one family. 4 days after the spring ceremony was a joyful day at Meishusama's home. A beautiful tea storage jar was delivered to him. And when Meishusama first saw this jar, he longed to have it for the Hakone Museum. The jar was so beautiful that it had been declared a national treasure by the Japanese government. That night, Meishusama slept tranquilly with the jar nestled close to his pillow. On the afternoon of the 9th of February, Meishusama's condition worsened and he fell into a coma. Then, on February the 10th, 1955, at 3:33 p.m., Meishusama peacefully left this world. Today, his body is no longer with us, but his divine light is stronger than ever. His dream was to relieve poverty, illness, and strife. Meishusama knew that spreading teachings would spread his dream of peace and tolerance to people all over the world. He knew he could depend on us to help create a paradise on earth. In the future, people will have to become world citizens. We wish to bring harmony to all humankind, to widen people's consciousness, to accept that all countries are members of one family.